people think I'm a conservative because I get along with black conservatives. Nobody has ever asked me why, Officer Tatum, why I always get along with black conservatives. It's because I believe y'all have been victimized for decades. Now, I might have democratic viewpoints. I might be somebody who, like, I consider myself fiscally conservative and socially liberal. But when you or anybody else come to me and you say, yo, Stephen A., what about this? What about this? Come on, man, there ain't no truth to that. Here's what really happened, etc. I'm listening because if you're coming to me with facts, why would I ignore that? I'm not going to let my facts be usurped by emotion. Because emotion is how the Democratic Party has gotten us to the place that they've gotten us, where they've confiscated or they've had about 80+% of our vote since the mid-'60s with Lyndon B. Johnson and civil rights legislation. At some point in time, I get to look at you and say, I understand what happened back then. I understand that those laws that you implemented and put into place facilitated us having more access to capital, et cetera, et cetera. But damn, I'm supposed to hold on to that 50, 60 years later and ignore what you did with the crime bill. Ignore what you're doing with education. Ignore what you're doing with the war on poverty. Ignore what you're doing with the economy and whether or not it's facilitating opportunities for black people in this country. I'm supposed to ignore all of that because of what you did in the 60s. No, I'm not doing that.
This is something I've been talking about with black people for a long time. I'm saying, hey, if you're voting 80, 90%, there's no political diversity in your community. Isn't that a political blind spot? Because you're getting all your information about conservatives from liberals, right? This is my argument for the black people out here, black people watching my video, right? If you're not a black conservative, you know what I'm talking about. Anytime someone says something against the Democratic Party, it's always both sides. It's always two birds with the same coin. Anytime a black conservative challenged the black orthodoxies of blindly voting Democrat, that's when all the excuses come out. Oh, well, they're the lesser of two evils. Really? During Joe Biden, you had back-to-back negative GDP growth where they were supposed to say Joe Biden's economy is going through a recession, and to cover for his butt because the institutions like media has a heavy liberal bias, they pretend that they didn't have a recession. And now, with the new jobs report that came out, Biden's last job report, you found out, overinflated by 1 million jobs, almost 1 million jobs, actually over 1 million jobs was added that didn't exist in Biden's economy, right? Inflation, the highest inflation in 40 years happened in the Biden administration. How was that helping black people? I can even go to the abortion. As a conservative, one of the main reasons I'm against abortion, right? From a politically pragmatic standpoint, is it easier to control a smaller population or a bigger population? Smaller population. Okay. If you didn't abort your kids, black people, you would have been the second largest voting bloc in the country. You don't think that comes with a lot of political power? Yet you went along with abortion, let them essentially massacre your people, stymie the growth of your population just to what? To be beholden to some left-wing ideology. And this is the threat that I kind of articulate a lot, right? And one of the things I talk about is how politically blind a lot of black voters are, is because all they hear about Republicans is only from a Democrat. Of course, a Democrat is going to tell you all the negatives of conservatism. They're not going to tell you the good. It's not their job politically to pitch a positive view of conservatives. And this is the number one thing I call out black voters for, is that they only want to listen about conservatives from liberals, from Democrats. Make it make sense. If I want to get an honest review on an Android phone, you think I'm going to ask an Apple store consultant, sales consultant about an Android product? But in politics, we don't want to listen to conservatives. Like people like Roland Martin, for instance, is a prime example of the black Democrat that I'm talking about. They'll talk about, oh, I can't even, if I find out you're a conservative, I don't even want to talk to you. I'm just going to say you're a liar. No open mind, nothing. And you wonder why the conservatives don't fight for your vote. You wonder why you always brag, oh, conservatives ain't going to do nothing for me. Yeah, because you're not willing to even hear them out. Because you've been socialized for decades, for generations, not to trust them from the Democrats. But you look at Democrats, high rates of crime. Where you at, Democrat? Where the most crime happened, where black people are the most victimized. And y'all don't want to do nothing about it. Y'all don't want to change nothing. because y'all comfortable. And like I said, nothing. If you want change, you have to go outside your comfort zone. And it seems like a lot of black voters don't want to go outside their comfort zone. And I want to play this clip by Stephen A. Smith to continue this, because he went out and kind of blasted black voters for their blind loyalty to the Democratic Party. So I'm gonna play this clip, and then we'll get into the to the main clip of the main segment of my commentary. Let's take a look.
And I applaud people like yourself and others, even when I disagree with you, for doing the same. Because what you're saying is, we ain't falling for the okie doke. Convince us. Show us we wrong. And I respect that. I like that. And that's why I don't have a problem with conservatives the way a lot of black folks in America have a problem with, because I'm not going to look at the Democratic Party and let them convince me that y'all are the enemy just because your ideology is different than theirs. They care so much about us. They've got the grand plan for all of us, and you don't need to look no further. By doing that, you empower them. And you disenfranchise yourself, because they know they got your vote, so they don't have to work for it. And the other side knows there's no way in hell they'll get your vote, so they don't do anything for you. What you got to do is make sure you stand right in the middle and you say, convince me, sell me. I want to see what you got to say, and keep an open mind. To me, that's the way to go.
Another thing that, makes black liberals so threatened by the black conservatives is black conservatives can make a pro-black argument about pretty much any issue that the Democratic Party push. Is it in black people's best interest to be essentially reliant on the liberal sensibilities, right? Because at the end of the day, black power only exists with white guilt. That's the current state of the black community. That's the current state of the black vote. Black power only has power because of white guilt. So that means you're wholly kind of dependent on the Democratic Party and white liberals. White liberals are the only political group that have a negative bias against people of the same race. Make that make sense? The things you accuse black conservatives of being, white liberals are. So if there ever comes a time where white liberals don't feel guilty about being white, your black power is screwed. And black conservatives always talk about do for self, personal responsibility, invest in human capital, stop worrying about so much about political capital. And this is where you get this blind loyalty from the Democratic Party. And this is one of the things I believe is holding black progress back, because of the fact that our people vote 80% plus for the Democratic Party. Black men are realizing this. Black men are realizing, I want to be rich. I want to be independent, because at the end of the day, if I need DEI to get a job, I'm handicapped or controlled by the Democratic Party. Think about it. This is why a lot of conservatives don't like DEI. Because we see this as a political bribe. Oh, we're going to create these fake jobs for you, like DEI teacher or advocate or your director of equity and education. You can't control that. The government can't do that. And as a conservative, and this is one of the arguments as a black conservative I point out, there's limits to the government's power. The government can't do everything for you. It can't bring you up into wealth. It can't equalize outcomes for you. It can't do that. It can only equalize opportunities. It could give you a shot. It could give you an opportunity, but it can't give you the same outcome. I can give you the opportunity to play basketball, but you ain't going to shoot the basketball at the same percentage as Stephen Curry. But you both can shoot threes, but Stephen Curry does it a little bit better than you. He's more proficient at it than you. Therefore, he's going to have a different outcome than you. And this kind of learned helplessness, and this is something that liberals have brainwashed the black community, the black culture with. And this is something that a lot of black conservatives don't vibe with. This is why we say, lift yourself up by your bootstraps. It may be an extreme idealism from a black voter standpoint, but the idea is focus on what you can control, not what you can't control. And I always say this, and this is a conservative's main argument. I think we got this from Frederick Douglass. Government do nothing for me, because when the government do something for you, they have control over you. If they can feed you, they can starve you. Very simple concept. Conservatives we just want to make sure everyone's playing by the same rules. We're not going to help anybody. We're not going to help no disadvantage. We're not going to equalize outcome. We're just going to make sure everyone's playing by the same rules. Democrats play this game of, we got to bring equity and all this stuff, equal outcomes. And the results of those policies give bad outcomes for all Americans, specifically black people. Being soft on crime, who it hurts? It don't hurt white Americans, because if you put a heavy police force in white neighborhoods, no white Americans will be crying racism and complaining about over-policing. But if you do that same action in the black community, you're going to have people crying about that stuff. Oh my God, I feel unsafe. The cops are in here. based on lies. And then black people are victimized by who? Other black people. Black people are overrepresented as victims of violent crime. You 13% of the population, but you 36% of crime victims? Make it make sense. That means most black people would benefit from heavy police presence in their neighborhoods. But we're left alone as war zones, mini war zones in our community, because the liberals, Democrats, believe it's racist to put police in heavily black neighborhoods, leaving us to our own demise, essentially, by the hands of our own people. This is why a 8-year-old black girl can get shot in the head, and there's no BLM riots for that. And this is some of the things that black conservatives are willing to call out. But black liberals don't want to hear it, because at the end of the day, black liberals, in my estimation, black Democrats are not pro-black. They're only pro-Democrat. Of course, they're going to tell you, oh, we have to vote Democrat. Oh, Democrats are the lesser of two evils, because that's their party. But when it comes to the issues, a lot of the times, a lot of the policies, prescriptions that the Democrats offer is a net negative for the black community. Their policy incentivizes single motherhood, while conservatives incentivize you to be self-determination. Hey, you have to do for yourself. We'll incentivize that behavior, but you actually have to do those behaviors. And you wonder why a lot of black people are comfortable in poverty, in mediocrity, because there's a system that sedate and enable the black people to be this way. But I digress. Enough of my ranting. Let's get into the clip.
Black men are like most men. Affordability.
The economy.
You understand? I mean, yeah, how much money you going to put in my pocket? How much taxes am I going to pay? How can I afford to provide for and to protect my family? You want safety in the streets? Certainly you don't want to see people getting arrested and being let out of jail the same day. Now, we all know that the liberals were guilty of that.
Yep.
I would never accuse the conservatives of being guilty of such a thing. You understand? And I got a lot of issues with the conservatives.
So this is what I'm talking about. All right, and this is why black women are more loyal to the Democratic Party than black men, because if you look at this, like single motherhood, the incentives, Democrats are very catered to women as a whole, right, at the expense of men. And this is why a lot of black men like myself are waking up to, especially the younger ones. They're starting to realize, yo, the Democratic Party don't do nothing for me. They don't, like DEI, who it benefits more? Some black women to obfuscate, like to hide the fact that they benefit from DEI, they're going to say it's white women. But who benefits the second? Who's the second tier? Black women. Okay. I got two things against me. I'm a woman and I'm black, right? They love bragging about that. Right? DEI don't benefit black men like that. Black men don't go to college like that either. Black men don't graduate from college like that. Right? These are the things we notice. I remember when Biden won, or I don't remember. They had a fund exclusively for black women. They're like, I think Goldman Sachs was going to invest like billions of dollars into the black woman workforce, to have black women in the corporate America. And black men, a lot of black men was asking themselves, like me, because I think I was graduating around that time. I was asking myself, where's that equivalent for black men? Why couldn't it just be for black people? Why? These are the kind of things, because at the end of the day, they know black women is their constituency. And I remember this appalling ad, right? And this is one of the reasons why I will never vote Democrat. The no voting, no vugging. Y'all don't remember that one? It starts with a V. I didn't curse, guys, right? It was that commercial, like insinuating that black men only care about having sex, and that the only way you can get them to go to the polls, they're telling black women, oh, don't sleep with no man unless he didn't vote that day. Make it make sense. This is how the Democratic Party see black men. And I, as a black man, right, I never use that phraseology often, but as a man, that insulted me. I'm like, what? You just think I just think with my little head, huh? Right? And then the black people will be the same one complaining about being stereotyped until it's for the Democrats' benefit, of course. When Donald Trump points out how illegal immigration hurts black jobs, right? Jobs that's commonly occupied by black people, black men specifically, complaining about how illegal immigration is bringing undue competition and lowering their wages, suppressing wages. They was offended by that. They was calling Donald Trump racist. But when Democrats were saying black jobs, all of a sudden, black people had no problems with Democrats using black jobs. This is the problem that, as a black conservative, I notice about the black voter. Y'all too damn loyal to the Democratic Party. And anytime a black person, a black independent, a black conservative call out the blind loyalty of the black voter, y'all quick to say it's both sides. Two birds of the same plane. But 88% of y'all are voting for the left. Make it make sense. But it's both sides. Both sides are the problem. We shouldn't be loyal to any political party. I agree. You shouldn't be loyal to any political party. But you are loyal to a political party. Look at your voting trends. 77% of black men voted for the Democratic Party. 93% of black women voted for the Democratic Party. So obviously, you're not following your own advice. This is my argument. And then when they argue, oh, the Democrats are better at governing. They're better based on policy. Oh, in what world? Give me an example. Education? Really? Education? You think our kids are learning? Look at the state of Gen Z right now. People are complaining about how they're not properly prepared for college, let alone the workforce, right? People are complaining about the dumbing down of our youth, right? And then, they throw the blame around. Oh, it's the parents' fault. Okay, so Democrats' policies on education does nothing really. So we should follow the conservatives movement. What conservatives Ben was saying is the family is the foundation of a good society. If you don't fix the family, it don't matter what you do as the government, it never is going to work. So you agree with the conservatives. Oh, no. School choice. Black kids benefit from school choice the most because they're not pigeonholed or chained down to a bad school district because they happen to be living there. Right? But the libs, they don't want it because they want to justify government spending. I can go on a myriad of issues. But the point is that if 88% of your people only see things one way and you get mad at a black person that thinks differently from you, right? Because at the end of the day, that's dogma. If I can't question the majority opinion on what's the direction a group of people can go in politics, how you know what you have is the truth? How you know what you have is actually right if it's never been questioned, if it's never been challenged? And this is why I said the black community, it needs more black conservatives in it. And it seems like that's going to be the case. But I digress. Let Stephen A. finish out his points.
That ain't one of them. When you talk about Trump and you look at him, you know that if it wasn't for COVID, in all likelihood, he probably would have won re-election in 2020.
That's right.
And so you take those things into consideration, and it's important to understand that affordability, the economy, was a big issue. And then when you take into account immigration and the position, it's not so, listen, everybody knows immigrants help build this nation. And if you're smart about America, you don't want completely closed borders and don't want anybody in. But when you let 12 to 14 million people cross the border illegally, that is problematic. And if you think, and as often, I know this might offend some people, but you'll get over it. But because I've religiously said it, and I'll say it again. When white folks catch a cold, black folks catch pneumonia. No matter what goes on in this world that's problematic for white folks, it is always worse for black.
And I think the reason why socially, from a social perspective, the black community is always behind in a way is because of the fact that there's this expectation in the black culture that someone owes us something. Someone, like, it's a culture of entitlement, right? And that makes you very passive in your life, right? My thing is, what stops the black community is their lack of discipline culturally, right? At an individual level, a lot of black people make bad decisions that affects us at the collective level, at the group level.
For white folks, if you got unemployment and it's hovering around 4.5% for the white community, it's 7.5% for the black community. It's even worse for black men. Certainly, it's affecting black women more than ever before, more than usual in this point in time. We know that, and so as a result of it, when you're looking at those certain situations, and these are the kind of things that the liberal movement was promoting, oblivious to the or not caring enough about the ultimate detrimental impact it would have, there were people that rose up and said, enough of this, because since 1964, when Lyndon B. Johnson told the world, you know what, when we pass civil rights legislation, okay, guess what? We'll have the Negroes voting for us for the next 200 years. And sure enough, over the past 60 years or so, a vast majority of African Americans have voted Democrat. We know that if we're doing our homework, we serve to disenfranchise ourselves, because we told the Democratic Party, you got our vote no matter what. We told the Republicans, you ain't getting our vote no matter what. Neither was incentivized to really put forth an...
And this is the argument. I think this is my best argument. I'm going to succinct it real quick. Your loyalty does not reward you politically. It doesn't. Both sides are not going to fight for your vote. The Republicans already kind of shown that we can win the election without your vote. This is why the Democrats and the Republicans are fighting harder for the Hispanic vote than they are fighting for the black vote, because everyone's like, oh, the black vote, they're just going to vote Democrat no matter what. It doesn't matter. 100% of black people could have voted for Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, and Kamala Harris would have still lost the election. That's the reality. And this is something black conservatives have been warning for a long time, that the black vote is going to become irrelevant. And one of the reasons why the black vote is going to become irrelevant is because of abortion. It's because of the fact that you aborted, like what, 40% of abortions are black babies. If we had banned abortion from 1976 until now, the black community would be the second largest voting bloc. They would have had to fight for your vote. They would have had to pitch better policies to win you over. But they don't have to do that. Democrats don't have to do nothing. Because I talk about this all the time, and this is a hard argument for the black liberal loyalist, is that if the Democratic Party doesn't change anything about the current situation in the black community, they're guaranteed to get their vote. So why are they, what incentive do Democrats have to actually make your situation better? Because it's a political risk to better your situation, black voter. Because if the Democrats better your situation, they might have unintentionally created an opportunity for you to leave them. It's a guarantee that if they don't change nothing about your life, they just give you scraps. Here's food stamps, here's welfare, right? Let's make these impossible goals that you cannot, you know damn well the government can't do, like equalize outcomes. The government can't do that, right? It's impossible for them to actually do that, but they promise you this stuff, and you believe this stuff, and you continue voting for them anyway. They make you get scared of the Republicans calling you, let you believe they're slanders of conservatives and Republicans. Oh, they don't like black people. Oh, they're racist. Oh, they this and that and the third. So that way you stay over here and they don't have to do anything for you. And then you're going to cry foul. Oh my God, the Democratic Party takes advantage. They take the black vote for granted. That's why. That's why they take it for granted. Because they already culturalized black people into tying their blackness into who they're voting for, which I think as a conservative is a stupid idea. Oh, Kenny, you're not really black because you vote Republican. Dumb. Sorry, dumb. That's like me saying you're not really black if you don't have an Android. Ridiculous argument. But I digress. This is some of the things that culturally shows how dominant the Democratic thought is in the black community and why they don't like pushback. Because the black vote is not politically diverse. It's not politically diverse. Like when you get a black conservative in the room, all of a sudden people have all these bad things to say about you. They pretend that you're voting against your best interest. Instead, you have a different interest. You have a different view. And it's always been like this in black history. If you ever read black history, Booker T. Washington had a different view, a different approach to black success, black progress than what's his name? Than W.E. Du Bois. I did a whole video on this. W.E. Du Bois believed the path to for black people's progress is through politics, political power, while Booker T. Washington believed it was through human capital. Make ourselves valuable. Let's learn skills, get knowledge, create our own industries, and then and naturally the values will come in. That was more of a long-term perspective. And it would have made us more independent, self-reliant, right? We would have been like the Asians. The Asians got a lot of political power, and they don't even have as much population as us. But they're in tech, they're doctors, they're in all these industries, and they have some influence on our politics. That was Booker T's path. Booker T was like, "Yo, focus on skills, focus on getting that knowledge, be self-sufficient, and you don't have to rely on anyone. You have the power to say yes or no. You're not going to be reliant on a political party. And that's what the Democrats have done with a lot of their policies. Make black voters dependent on their policies.
To give us the representation we deserved. And as a result, we disenfranchised ourselves, but we're not seeing it that way. You got migrants coming to this country that clearly see it that way. Look at the Hispanic population. You got Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, Guatemalans, Cubans, everything. And you don't know who's going to vote what. So guess what? Both sides are trying to appeal to them, which means they're not being ignored. That's the game. And unfortunately, we as a black community lost.
I talk about this a lot. Because this is where like I kind of call out the black Democrat and black voters as a whole as somewhat being racist. This is what makes y'all racist. Y'all still pretend that it's only white people in this country now. There's Asian people, there's Hispanic people, there's other black immigrants, right? This is why I get mad. The FBAs, y'all get the financially black, the foundational black Americans, y'all get mad at the black immigrants, the descendant of black immigrant, right? Y'all get mad at our families because we come here, because this is the funny part. We come here and there's stats that show that black immigrants have a higher average income than native born, multi-generational African Americans. Why is that? How is it in one generation a black immigrant is equal or more up the social ladder, social economic ladder than you are. And this is why I'm talking about the handicap that the liberal has conditioned the black community to be in. This is why a lot of black immigrants are so successful in this country. When you hear the first black person to do this is usually descended from an immigrant. Obama, immigrant, descended from an immigrant. Yes, he's descended from a slave owner, but he's descended from an immigrant, an African immigrant. Barack Obama. Kamala Harris, descended from Jamaican immigrants, Jamaican and Indian immigrants, right? Krian Jean-Pierre, she one of my peoples, Haitian. This is it's not a coincidence. It's the mentality that's stopping the black community. And I honestly going to fight anyone on this. I'll debate any black person on this. Your culture is what's holding you back. The only systematic oppression, the only systematic thing that I'll agree with is your culture. Your culture is the only systematic thing that you actually have control over, that you actually have influence over. And you systematically condition your people not to strive for greatness, right? Only in sports. But that same mentality, you don't apply it in academics. You don't incentivize it. You don't reward it, right? You don't reward people making sound and smart financial decisions. You hate delayed gratification. You guys don't like to play the long game, right? And it's due to the culture. Rap culture, right? Getting it fast and quick. This is why y'all like athletes, rappers, because y'all like fast money. Y'all like short-term gratification. Y'all like instant gratification. And this is what incentivizes a lot of black people to do reckless and dumb stuff that hurts them in the long term. And I think that's the decision makings that the black community have done, because isn't racism that's holding the black community back? I always said it. It's internal decision makings. It's the decisions that the black community has made as a whole leading up to this point is what got them the situation that they're in the first place. They're not supposed to be blaming racism. Stop using racism as an alibi. It's your own decision makings that done this.
It's turned so many other communities off against us because they've said, what are y'all doing? Do you not see that this is working against you? So this was a huge, huge step. No matter how much we may lament it because of some of the things that we're seeing right now with these tariff wars and other things that we're seeing and National Guards in different cities, we're still seeing certain things that make us say, yo, we don't want to go back to what it was like in 2020.
I do want to interject just for a moment.
Exactly. Right. And everyone sees it. Everyone sees that the Democratic Party isn't a serious party. Right. But emotional stuff. They say the racially charged stuff. They know it works on the black people and get you emotional. Right. And they well, you know what they say? Never make a decision when you're emotional, because usually it's a bad decision. And this is what Democrats have done with politics. They made it very emotionally charged. And this is why a lot of black people end up making bad decisions. But, I digress. Let me know your thoughts and perspective in the comments below. I'll be interested to hear your thoughts and your perspective on black loyalty, and should black loyalty be challenged, and should black voters continue being loyal to the Democratic Party? I'd like to hear your thoughts and perspective in the comments below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Please share this video if it's so inclined. It really does help me on the algorithm. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.